Venga, de lujo.
Vale.
Okay. Well, I think we are live, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to open this. Yeah, we're live. I have to tell you that we have like a couple of views in the last episode. So yeah, we're doing numbers. um,
Yes.
So, well,
Oye,
hello everyone. Welcome back. Sorry, it is. I gonna cut you out, but well, I don't know. Welcome everyone to the the second episode of this podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about White Sargasso, a novel by Jean Rhys from 1966. This novel is a direct response to a previous text, so there's obviously a lot of intertextuality. The text that, the novel that this literary work responds to is Jeanne by Charlotte Bronte. I already mentioned in the last in the other second episode that we did that I do not know and still don't know how to pronounce her surname correctly, but yeah, what are we going to do about it? Um, there's this novel deals with quite a lot of problematic topics, and so there's like a lot of material to talk about and to explain and to analyze from different perspectives and different schools of thought. Similar to the previous episode, I'm going to continue analyzing this from a postmodernist and a materialist perspective. In Frankenstein, I'm focused quite a lot more in materialism than in postmodernism, and in this one, it's going to be like the complete opposite. There's quite a lot of postmodernist traits throughout the whole book. Um, there's a lot of postmodernism in, for example, Jean Rhys' dramatization of the slavery in the Caribbean islands. A lot of postmodernist traits in her. I don't know how to put it. The problematization of or the critic. In her critic to British and English nationalism and national justification of slavery and all of these social issues. Um, there's also a lot of postmodernism in her, in the figure of Rochester. In the novel is about a girl named Antoinette. A girl. She starts as a girl, but as the novel advances, she ends up being like, a completely developed woman. And the figure of Rochester appeared also in of her husband appeared also in Jane Eyre novel, but he's more problematic in this one. So she the author Ian Rees tried to apply a more modern, a very postmodern perspective in this character, who throws the main character in an isolated room, and she also subverts the topic of the mad woman in the attic, and all of these Victorian tropes that we can see in every Victorian novel from the 19th century. For instance, in this concept of the mad woman in the attic, in during Victorian times in Victorian literature, we have critic figures towards these critical authors towards this specific portrayal, this figure, but in this one, in White Sargasso, the author tried to kind of convey how the figure of the mad woman in the attic is not just a reflection of how women were at the time, but and that this figure is like it does not only explains the situation of the women during that period of time, but how it was like the external forces, external influences who got women to that point of being like kind of mad or crazy, or recluded in a liminal space. Uh, there's quite a lot of postmodernist fragmentation in this novel. Also, we have fragmentation with in the structure. The narrative voice is divided in three parts, and the novel is divided in three arcs or three perspectives. And in each perspective, there's one different narrator. In the first one is Antoinette, and in the other two is Rochester, and the figure of the character of Grace Poole. Grace Poole, who was also a character in Jean Rhys, thus for the proving that this text is a direct response. There's a clear intertextuality, between the two books. This fragmentation also serves the purpose of, portraying how the same situation, the same acts and the same actions through different ideas, and how different feelings conveyed by different characters. So what do you guys think? What do you guys have to comment about this particular book?
Well, I will be analyzing this book from an anti-racist approach, from an anti-racist perspective. So most of my analysis has to deal with identity and the conflicts that comes when we kind of lost of our identity. For example, in the case of Antoinette, I think that the main conflict with her identity comes when her name is changed, when Mr. Rochester changes her name. I think that Sylvia will also talk about it from a feminist perspective, because it's like changing the name of something is something you would do maybe to a dog or to a cat, to an animal. It's kind of renaming a thing is like possessing it. It's like making it yours, making it your possession. So I think that this is also really interesting when it comes to analyze it from a feminist perspective, but also from an anti-racist perspective, as is mine. It's really interesting. For example, when we talk about Antoinette, her real name, her original name, we see how she's portrayed as a beast, as a dark figure, as almost an animal, a wild animal that has to be shut up in the attic, in the house, wherever, something to be kept away. And in contraposition, we see how Bertha kind of incarnates the Victorian stereotype, the Victorian idea of how a woman should be. A woman should be a good girl, should be mild, should be compassionate, moderate, should be chaste, should be someone.
Yeah,
Who,
the idea of the angel in the house, right?
yeah, exactly, the angel of the house. Yeah. So we have this contraposition, which is in fact very racist, because everything that does not fit in the European, in the Occidental, in the Western canon of how a woman should be is considered bad, is considered aggressive, is considered something that is attributed to the animals, to beasts.
Yeah,
So
something savage, right?
yeah, savage. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if Sylvia has something to say about it.
Yes, I think it's a very interesting idea because both perspective talking about identity have a similar themes. For example, talking about stereotypes in women, talking about, for example, Victorian women, as you said, Occidental European women, in contraposition to more women of other countries, like for example Jamaica. Talking about from a feminist critical approach, I wanted to talk about how women especially Antoinette, is and her mother are kind of subjugate to men economically, and how marriage is more like an economic contract rather than a reaffirmation of, for example, their love.
Yeah,
And marriage saves Antoinette and her mother from become poor. And and I don't know. I think yeah. Also, for example, Antoinette, when she is sent to a convent, she has to deal with very harsh women stereotypes that she doesn't fit in. And I think it deals the book generally, o sea, yeah, generally deals with how women must fit into those stereotypes and what happens when you do not fit into them.
yeah, we have like this reification of women, like reducing them to merely objects and animals, something you can sell and buy, like an object, like something that you own, that you can change their name as it's yours, and you sell them through a contract. Just as you said, it's like an economic transaction. So yeah, I really find it very,
And even
very
like
interesting.
a social agreement, between
Yeah,
families.
yeah, yeah. Also, yeah,
It's very interesting the concept with these kind of relationships because in materialism we have this theory, well, this I don't know how to say it, this construct, this concept created by Hegel, that is like there is the master slave dialectic, in which in a clash between two consciousness or self consciousness, as he called it, there's always going to be like a winner and a loser. The winner is going to be the master, obviously, and who's not going to learn anything about the confrontation. Is not going to have like any interest whatsoever in the point of view or on the perspective of the slave, the one that lose this confrontation. And then we have like the figure of the slave, who is self-aware of his subjugated position, of his condition as someone who is in the background, of this concept of the underdog, and it's going to become like even more self-aware and more critic and more it's going to have a further development as the master compared to the master. And like this dichotomy is going to exert itself, is going to serve as a material condition for the freedom of that person, mostly the slave. And so in this book we can have like this concept. It could be explained through the figure of the marriage, between in the Victorian times, that the master slave, the dialectic could be applied to any marriage in any point in history, as and every relationship. This is more like a concept of the past. The concept of relationships has been like kind of deconstructed through the time, and every time we kind of want to achieve like more healthier relationships and more equal relationships. But at the time, it was like this. There's always going to be like a dominant person inside the relationship, and or the one who just kind of obeys, and someone
yeah.
who conforms. Yeah. So in this particular relationship, we have like this master slave dialectic, not only in the marriage, but with society, for example, and with British society. The main character, Antoinette, she's like a white girl in Jamaica at the last stages of colonialism, at the late states of slavery. So you have like this confrontation between her for being white and the black population of the island, and she's not like white enough. She's not like white enough in the sense of behavior, of costumes. So she's not like white enough to mingle with the rest of the of the British people living in the island, and she's not black enough, of course, and she's not black to comprehend and to empathize enough with with the indigenous population.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
and then when we have like all of these relationships in which she is kind of the slave in each and every one of them. She's we have this is also like a postmodernist trait, because like she's not only oppressed by one flank, she's there's like how do you call intersectional oppression. She's not only oppressed before being a woman, she's been oppressed because she kind of feels like she doesn't belong, and then she goes to England and she doesn't belong there to either. So she's always like out of place. She seems like she doesn't belong to any
Yeah,
place, any
this
people, any social
belonging.
group.
Living
Yeah,
a liminal
Yeah,
space a bit, yeah. Hmm.
yeah, and
yeah,
it's more even more problematic than as I say in Jane Eyre, the original novel. So this is also, as I've mentioned, a more postmodernist trait than in there. We also have before that I forget, we also have the stream of consciousness in the last part of the book, in which the character explains how she is feeling, and her thoughts through this stream of consciousness technique. The stream of consciousness itself is not a postmodernist trait; it's more like a modernist trait. But uh, in addition with the rest of the techniques that we all mentioned, this whole problematization of these, profound critic towards these problematic elements, we get this postmodernist, this final postmodernist characteristics. I don't know. What do you guys have to comment about this?
Mm,
Or anything else? I mean, or anything that you have to say, not necessarily about this master-slave dialectics, but which is like kind of like a difficult topic to explain.
no,
I sincerely just reduce the master slave dialectics to I cannot reduce it to the absurd. Not that much, but I oversimplified that quite a lot. But yeah, to give a general
yeah. Just
idea of it.
a good analysis.
I think it's an interesting question because really Antoinette, it seems like she's not in control of her life because she's subjugate always to somebody.
Mhm.
And it's interesting the question of master slave that you have a plan question debate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that you have to about. Yeah, I
Hmm.
also find it very interesting. Um, yeah, and also from an anti-racist point of view, I really find it
Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, of course, from an anti-slavery position. I mean, the name itself kind of gives it away. I mean, it's a relationship between a master and a slave. So for a novel dealing with slavery, although it is in the later stages, and slavery at the beginning of the book is like. Slavery was abolished in Jamaica like 2 years ago, so we have like this setting of uneasiness, unrest, of everyone is being like wary, and you know, even Jamaican people throw slurs at Antoinette because there was this harsh feelings, obvious harsh feelings. I imagine being a slave, and then being liberated. I wouldn't be nice to my previous slave masters, of course.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's agree.
I was thinking about also that I think money plays a really important role in the book
Mhm.
because, for example, not only talking about marriage, as I said before, that in order to Antoinette and her mother not to end up being poor, they had to marry. Um, for example, when Christophine gives to, I think it's Antoinette, for pennies or something like that, um,
Yeah, and
her
she
friend
stalls
Tia,
her. Yeah, and she stalls her away. Yeah.
yeah, she wants to bet Antoinette.
Mhm.
I think something at the swimming pool, or I don't know what was.
No, I think the situation
She,
was that Antoinette had like four
yeah,
pennies or something like that. I do not remember the exact
yeah,
name of money that he or the exact amount of
mm,
money that she had, but it was like nowadays, well, according to
sí,
inflation and shit like that, when it would be like a shitload of money, but. Uh, I mean, at the time it was like nothing, and the other girl just stalls it away, because
mm,
she was like white and she was only pretending to be her friend. And well, they were friends, but at the time that money is involved in there, like there's no friends
mm.
at all.
Yeah.
She stalls her away and doesn't care if she's her friend or not. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, I wanted to point out about this thing also, that I think they bet the money and Antoinette loses, and that's why Tia gets the money. But really, she tricked Antoinette, I think. But
Oh
the
yeah.
important thing, I
Sorry. Yeah,
think,
yeah.
is that, no, don't worry. That I don't know why they changed. They quit their clothes, and Tia runs away with the money of Antoinette and her dresses, her
Mhm.
clothes. And Antoinette has to go to her house, with the dirty clothes of Tia. And I think that could be a symbol that even Antoinette was a white girl, although Creole, but was in a place of superior, socially speaking.
Privilege.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Once they change their clothes and Antoinette loses her money, it's like you are really at the bottom again.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
you are nothing without money, and that, like, I don't know, maybe like money, I
Yeah.
think it plays an important role through the book.
That's a really good
Yeah.
analysis. Yeah.
I am so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I've never thought about it, but yeah, it's like a real subversion, an inversion of the roles that you had until that very moment, because Antoniette came from a slave, I don't know, slavist in slavery, a household
Place
who
over.
hold the slaves,
Yeah.
who had slaves.
Yeah.
So yeah, at that time when the social hierarchy is like kind of broken, there's like
Yeah.
if we steal your things, who's the underdog now? So yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I understood
Really,
what you
yeah,
said.
yeah, yeah. It's really interesting, yeah.
Hmm.
Mm. And I don't know if you have anything more or
Well, if we
about.
talk about like symbols and
Hmm.
just to highlight, I would like to highlight the element of fire
Hmm.
as a symbol. From a racist and slavery point of view, we see how fire is always present in this when it comes to protest, when it comes to um, to protest, to the emancipation of slaves, to claim for something. We see, for example, in the protest of the ex-slaves when they burn the colibri garden.
Mm.
Um, fire is always present. They burn, literally burn the colibri garden.
Hmm.
And when, so we said in the other podcast, when Antoniette dreams about burning down the house with a candle, she does not think of demolishing the house or in whatever way. She thinks of burning down the the house as a way of as a way of protest of also making herself free, setting herself free. But yeah, it's like it's always when it comes to protest, the fire is like always present. Uh, yeah, I don't
Hmm.
know if you guys. noticed about it, but
Yeah.
I would like
I
to.
wanna comment on these last symbols that you talk about there about the fire and things like that. The idea of the fire, that it is like mainly on the I believe, if I remember correctly, in the third part of the book, when she is like, recluded in her house, she kind of dreams again with burning down the house. And I believe that maybe I'm kind of intrusive in this school of thought, but I think that from a Marxist perspective, I think that the fire may be like this revolutionary concept, about like breaking down the social hierarchy, and almost like also a materialist perspective, kind of breaking down the material conditions that, kind of restrain a lot of aspects of her freedom.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe she finds like although fire is like kind of this scary, as
Practice.
this is scary element because it could be dangerous and things like that. She kind of feels like fire could be the thing that helps her, in a desperate attempt to I would do anything, I would do what it takes to break free and to escape this this liminal space, this room, or this, not only this room, but this room, this marriage, this society, this country, I want to go back.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Andres. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
Do you guys have like any more final thoughts on this issue, or we can conclude this, or we can conclude with this, kind of subversive revolutionary propaganda that I used to stick in here, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that we could like
I think we
here
can.
a pretty good job. Just humble.
We have a deep analysis. I think we
Yeah.
have done.
Okay, well,
Sure.
that was all for today's episode, for the second episode of the second episode of this podcast. So, we're going to start the next one soon. So, see you guys around. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.